We have Tyler, pronouns are he, him, in Maryland. Tyler thinks atheists require faith because none of us can know everything. Is that a rough assessment there, Tyler?
Yeah, that's the general thing I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I have an issue with that because none of us are saying that we can know everything, but I'm not even talking about knowledge. I'm talking about beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
And there are things that we believe, and I'm not aware of any belief that I have that I would say is faith-based. And to me, faith is the excuse people give for believing something when they don't have a good reason. Because if you say, why do you believe this? And you have a good reason, you just present that. So what is it that I need faith in order to have a justified belief of? Or not? Well, let me backtrack for a second, because I'm not convinced that faith is a justification for belief or anything else, but it's the reason that some people give. So what is it that I, as an atheist, and Kenneth, as an atheist, what is it that we believe that you think is faith-based?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not quite exactly sure what both of y'all believe, but, when you start getting down to the nitty-gritty of, why is there matter in the universe? Or like, why do we see
I don't know.
Beings that have exactly right. So we're trying to all make sense of.
But I don't have a belief about that. Is what I'm saying.
Okay, I guess I'm not following. So would you say then, if by just saying you don't know, I mean, it's just it's an admission that that you don't have enough information to be able to have a reasonable belief on that?
Generally speaking, yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know everything about the God I believe in, because the God I believe in is infinite.
What do you know about the God you believe in? There's no way. Tell me one thing you know about the God. Tell me one thing you know about the God you believe in. That would be great.
That a part of him lies in a person called Jesus Christ who died for our sins, and you can feel that forgiveness in your personal life. Like that is the.
How do you know? How do you know that a part of God rests in a person called Jesus Christ? How do you know that?
Through just different examples, like historical documentation, the effect it had on people over time.
No, Tyler. Historical documentation doesn't demonstrate that Jesus was God. You have a belief that Jesus was God in some way. You claim to know it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're asking, how do you know this? You can't just say various reasons and historical documents.
Oh, I see. No, yeah, I'm not saying that I, know 100% that there.
I didn't ask that.
A God and because no one can ever know something 100% because you can always.
I agree with you. I agree with you, Tyler. I don't think any of us can have absolute certainty. I'm asking you what you believe and why. You believe that God was embodied in some sense in Jesus Christ. What is the justification for believing that is what I'm asking.
Because there's just a lot of other evidence that makes it seem likely that this claim could be true, right? So
what's the best? Yeah, what's the best evidence that you got?
The impact that the actual event of the crucifixion has had in history.
So first of all, prove that a crucifixion happened, but then you'd have to show that whatever impact it had is because it's from God. Are you saying that all the other religions are also true because they had an impact?
Well, no, I'd say you wouldn't necessarily have to prove that it came from God. You could just understand the facts around the crucifixion, the impact that it had. And once you quantify that, you try to explain it the best you can. And then the explanation.
No. That's not how reasoning works. So there were plenty of people who were crucified. What made Jesus special?
Mm-hmm. The circumstances around it, right? So you have all this stuff leading up to it with.
What stuff? What stuff? What can you prove? Can you prove that Jesus ever existed?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say there's a lot of historical evidence around that.
No, there's not. There's not.
There's not written documentation that this person existed?
No, there is no reliable, confirmable first century contemporary accounts that demonstrate that he existed. Now, I'm not saying he didn't exist, but when you look at this, and I'm asking you, you think that Jesus' crucifixion was special. And I'm asking, why do you think it's God?
I think that would make the most sense with the events that happened after the fact, right?
Okay, if all you're going to do every time I ask you to demonstrate your claim is to say that's what makes the most sense or lots of evidence, if you can't give, cite, and argument supported by evidence, why should I take you seriously?
I mean, like I just told you, like there's like Tacitus, right, and Josephus, and all these people.
Actually, Tacitus and Josephus said this is the first time those words have come out of your mouth. Neither of them are contemporaries, and neither of them demonstrate that Jesus was God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if Tyler, if we could agree that, let's just say for the sake of conversation that there was an historical Jesus, and let's say that historical Jesus was crucified. How do we get to God from there?
Then I think you have to look at all the other evidence and see, all right, is this something that fits?
Well, okay, so if the short answer, sorry to interrupt you, Tyler, but we got to steer this ship. So if the answer is evidence is how we get from there was a dude named Jesus who was crucified, and evidence is how we're going to get to him being God. Give me one thing that can be used to demonstrate the truth of the claim Jesus is God.
The significant impact a crucifixion like that had on the people around him.
So I got to ask you. Is the impactfulness of a belief? Does the impactfulness of a belief have anything to do with whether the thing that is being believed is true? In other words, can a mistaken or false belief still change people's lives?
Oh, it definitely can.
Okay. So
then what are you talking about?
Show that life's changed because it was true, and not, how do you know that this is an example of lives changing over something that wasn't true?
Yeah. I got friends who joined Hare Krishna and their lives changed, man. But that doesn't mean that their beliefs are true.
No, that's definitely true, right? Like you can have this case where you could think that this is some lie or some, manipulation that has then gone on and survived thousands and thousands of years.
But I'm not making any claims about the nature of the event. I'm just asking. Yeah.
All we want to know, Tyler.
You're not. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All we want to know, this is really simple. There are some scenarios where something happens and the reason, and it has an impact on people, and it is perhaps not from a God. And you claim that there are occasions where something happens and it impacts a bunch of people, and you claim that it can be from a God. We want to know how to tell the difference. Jesus was crucified and impacted people. Somebody else was crucified and impacted people. How do we know which of those, if either one, is from a God?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would just say that just the scope and intensity of the actual event that happened. Like with this.
No, sir. Tyler. The truth of a proposition is not in any way impacted by the number of people who believe it, how sincerely they believe it, how long they've believed it, how strongly it impacted their life. None of those things are elements of determining the truth of the proposition. None of them.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say none, because you'd say like the long lasting.
I would say none. I did say none. That is a fucking fact, Tyler. None of those things are sufficient to conclude that your reason is true, because somebody could be afraid of what they thought was a ghost. Does that mean it was a ghost? What if it really scared them? What if a whole bunch of people, it really scared a whole bunch of people? Does that mean it's a ghost?
No.
Tyler, you can. It's so simple. You can look at literally. You can.
Correct. And we're not saying that Jesus isn't God. You're saying he is, and we're asking you why.
Yeah, and you can look, Tyler. You can look at every. Tyler, I want to try to make this as easy as possible, because you can look at every other religious tradition on the planet and see that beliefs have the power to change people's lives. You can look at impactful moments in history. You could look at a figure like the Prophet Muhammad and say, man, that guy's life and ministry and the things that he said really changed the world. But that has nothing to do with whether like the metaphysical and spiritual claims of Islam are true. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm. No,
okay, great.
True. And that's why you have.
Would you suggest, Tyler, that the Muslim individuals who flew planes into buildings, would you suggest that their lives were impacted less by Islam than yours has been by Christianity?
No, I would just say that they rationalized their belief differently, or they were manipulated in their belief. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, now hang on. Here's the weird thing, because you just suggested that we were suggesting that God isn't real or wasn't Jesus, rather than you had the burden of proof. When asked how you would treat some other religion, you just suggested that they were deceived or delusional. How do you prove that, Tyler? Prove that those people were wrong and deceived and delusional, and you're right.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, because when all of that stuff happened, right, and you have like the rise of ISIS and stuff like that, and all of this stuff was happening because you had people like Zawahiri and the leader of Al Qaeda in Iraq. They were purposefully manipulating text in the Quran.
No, they weren't.
And
no, they weren't. And no, they weren't. And why on earth do you get to dismiss other religions as false? And anytime anybody wants you to demonstrate yours, you just say all the evidence. You've backed yourself into an impossible corner here, Tyler, because there's no way in hell that your life has been as impacted by Christianity as a suicide bomber's life was impacted by Islam. And yet your criteria was about the stronger impact, demonstrating that it's more likely true. So why aren't you a Muslim?
No, I'm just saying that in this specific case, you have the king of Jordan and the head of the Islamic Church denouncing the form of Islam that ISIS was pushing and rationalizing people.
Form of Islam. But Tyler, can you be honest?
Besides the point, too, Tyler.
I'm going to stop talking, and I'm going to let Kenneth do this, because I'm getting irritated that you are not being honest at all, Tyler. Because now you've moved from they were lied to about the Quran to they were lied to about a form of Islam. And so we've moved away from you demonstrating the truth of anything.
Yeah. Yeah. And you sort of sidestepped the point. So let's try to bring it back here. Because we've already acknowledged that the impactfulness of a belief has nothing to do with whether the belief is true, right? So people could believe sincerely that Jesus was God, and that could have a huge impact on the world. Doesn't make Jesus God. So what else do you have? What evidence do you have?
That Jesus was God, or that?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I think we should look at it not as just yes or no, but like what's the most likely like explanation for this. And one of the other reasons that I would think that this is a more likely explanation is because if you see the culture of devout Jews and all the rituals they follow and how structured their lives are around this religion, it's just, I see it as improbable that this event happened at the time
and change people's lives.
Such a long, change people's.
So let me give you an example from recent history. I don't know if so it says you're in Maryland. So here in the United States, you had a guy by the name of Joseph Smith in a devoutly Christian context bring a set of ideas and beliefs to the table, and the claims that Joseph Smith made were sufficient to cause many people to change their lives. There are Mormon martyrs, even when you sort of trace the church's origins, and you trace Joseph Smith from New York through Missouri and all the way the church ends up in Utah and stuff, where people change their lives, coming from a context where they were devout Christians. So again, we've returned to this same non-point of belief being sufficient to change people's lives. A devout Jew, a devout Christian, who gives a shit? If people believe a certain set of claims, it'll change their life. Who cares? What does that have to do with Jesus being God?
Because of the magnitude of it, right? So this has happened for 2,000 years, and it's continued in the strength of belief. And you have all these different fields in philosophy and theology and debate and academia that try to look at these things, like there's a reason that we talk about this.
All the evidence. All the evidence. We're right back to Tyler just spewing, there's all kinds of reasons without ever giving any one specifically, without ever making any argument that's supported by any kind of sound evidence. As I already pointed out, the truth of something is not impacted by the number of people believe it, how long they've believed it, how sincerely they believed it, how much it's moved it. None of those things are elements of whether or not the proposition is true.
Yeah.
Period.
And we could point to just, the impact of the Roman Empire. We can look at Christianity being adopted as the official religion of the largest, most powerful group of people on the fucking planet and go, okay, well, there you go. And we can trace the sort of the persistence of Christianity back to that. And it would have nothing to do with Jesus being God. So,
Oh yeah, there's good arguments for the evolution of God in a naturalistic or materialistic world. Like Robert Wright wrote extensively on that. What I'm just trying to say is that none of us know exactly the whole absolute truth. So
you don't seem to know anything, Tyler. This isn't about knowing the absolute truth.
Yeah.
I asked you what you knew, and you claimed that you knew that Jesus was God, and yet you cannot demonstrate that. And when pushed on it, you just say it's all the evidence. You just say it's the most reasonable. I'm not interested in your abductive reasoning. I want deductive, inductive, not abductive. Make a case provided with evidence. Otherwise, you're admitting that you don't have a good reason for your belief.
Yeah. Because at this point, what you're doing is you're going, look, there's this set of ideas that have survived for a really long time and were really impactful on our planet. Ergo, Jesus must have been God. And that's a mistake,
Meanwhile,
man.
You called in to specifically, hang on, you called in to specifically say atheists require faith. And then when I point out another religion, you want to say that they were lied to or whatever else. You are comfortable making assertions about what everybody else believes, and you are not comfortable presenting any evidence to defend what your beliefs. Demonstrate that I use faith for my beliefs in the same way that you do.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. Gotcha. I just wanted to point out the fact that before I did provide evidence that for a belief that Jesus existed, but evidence that atheists would require faith would just be like the hope that in the future stuff happens as it has in the past. You know what I mean?
Are you saying it takes faith to
no, sir.
believe in uniformity of nature? Is that what you're
no,
asserting?
sir, Tyler. It is no. Our position that the future will be similar to the past, or that we can make inferential conclusions from the past, is borne out by the evidence in that has always happened in every situation for the entirety of the history of the world. You could say that I have faith. You could say that I have faith that I experience a real world because we can't solve the problem of hard solipsism. But that is a pragmatic position. I don't believe the things that you think that I have to believe. I don't. To note that the universe is likely to keep moving and operating under the same principles of physics that it has since the dawn of time is not a faith position. It is an inference from all of the evidence that comes before. Like, there's no example of anything that hasn't conformed with physics. You're the one who believes in things that haven't conformed with physics. Do you think Jesus walked on water? Do you think Jesus multiplied loaves and fishes? Do you think Jesus magically healed or got rid of a bullshit concept like sin? You're the one that's believing in magic, not me. You're the one that has faith-based positions, not me.
Well, doesn't it logically follow that if you believe in a God who created everything and is all powerful, that he can, break the laws of nature if he wants to? Isn't that logical?
No. It does not logically follow that because you believe a God can do something, that a God can actually do something.
Well, that's true.
That is the most broken statement you've made the entire time you've been on the phone. What you believe has no bearing on what would actually fucking happen.
Yeah, in your imagination where that God exists, sure. Yeah, you could imagine
absolutely
whatever you want.
We want to know in reality. If you don't have... Tell you what, Tyler, I got other callers. Call us back when you have reality-based evidence for a God.
It's our favorite kind. Yeah.